Hello, this is new motivate story. Let's go started.
How do successful people stay motivated? It was a cold Tuesday morning when I found myself sitting in the coffee shop, staring blankly at my laptop screen. My to-do list was overflowing, and the tasks ahead seemed insurmountable. I was feeling burned out, demotivated, and, worst of all, uncertain. As I glanced around the cafe, my eyes landed on a couple of people typing away at their laptops, completely absorbed in their work. They seemed so focused, so driven. I couldn't help but wonder, how do successful people stay motivated? I'd heard the term motivation tossed around countless times. People often refer to it as the thing that propels you toward your goals. But as I sat there, I realized that motivation alone wasn't enough. It wasn't sustainable. For a while, I had assumed that motivation was the secret ingredient behind success. But what I saw around me, and what I had experienced, proved otherwise. It became clear that there was something deeper, something more persistent that kept those successful people going, something I needed to understand for myself. The false myth of motivation. Before diving deeper, I used to think motivation was the one thing separating successful people from the rest. Every self-help book or podcast I came across seemed to emphasize how successful people had the drive, the motivation, to keep going when times got tough. It was almost as if there was this secret formula. Wake up early, work relentlessly, stay disciplined, and bam, success. But the more I researched, the more I realized that motivation can be an unreliable fuel. In fact, if you rely solely on motivation to push you through challenges, you'll quickly burn out. I started reflecting on my own experiences. The early stages of a project always felt thrilling. The excitement of starting something new, the burst of enthusiasm as I set goals and made plans. Those were the days when I felt most motivated. But then came the inevitable lulls. When the initial excitement faded, I found myself struggling to push through. It was like hitting a wall. This cycle made me wonder, if motivation isn't the key to long-term success, then what is? Discipline, the backbone of consistency. I decided to dig deeper into the habits of people I considered successful: entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, and innovators. What I discovered time and time again was that successful people didn't rely on motivation alone. They leaned heavily on discipline. Discipline is the ability to push through when motivation is nowhere to be found. It's about doing the work even when you don't feel like it. It's showing up, day in and day out, regardless of how tired you are, how unmotivated you feel, or how many obstacles you face. I began applying this idea to my own life. I created systems that forced me to stay consistent, even when the enthusiasm of starting a new project faded. I built habits that became automatic, writing a certain number of words every day, doing 30 minutes of exercise in the morning, setting aside time for learning and growth, even when I didn't feel like it. The difference was stark. Discipline allowed me to stay productive when motivation wasn't there. Over time, I saw results. Small, consistent actions built up, and that momentum kept me going. The role of accountability in staying motivated. Another strategy one noticed successful people using was accountability. No matter how disciplined you are, it's easy to fall off track without someone to hold you accountable. I realized that many successful people had external checks and balances: business partners, mentors, coaches, or even friends who kept them on task. These people didn't just encourage them when things were going well. They also pushed them when things were tough. They acted as a guiding force during the moments when doubt crept in. I decided to find an accountability partner for myself. I reached out to a friend who was also trying to build their own business, and we agreed to check in with each other regularly. We set goals, shared progress, and kept each other motivated when one of us felt like quitting. Having that external layer of accountability made a massive difference in how I approached my goals. I couldn't just skip a task because I didn't feel like doing it. I had someone else to answer to. And that sense of responsibility made me work harder and stay on track, even during the most difficult periods. Purpose, the secret to long-term motivation. But even with discipline and accountability, there were still days when I felt like I was going through the motions. My energy would dip and my enthusiasm would wane. That's when I realized something even more powerful was at play for successful people: purpose. Purpose is the reason behind everything. It's the deep, intrinsic motivation that pushes you to keep going, even when things get tough. People who are truly successful, in whatever field they pursue, often have a powerful why driving them. This sense of purpose goes beyond monetary gain or superficial goals. It's about making a difference, creating something meaningful, and leaving a legacy. I began reflecting on my own purpose. Why was I doing what I was doing? What impact did I want to have on the world? The more I delved into my motivations, the clearer it became. I wanted to build a business that could help people, that could provide value, and make a lasting impact. When I aligned my goals with this deeper purpose, the work stopped feeling like a chore. I was no longer just chasing success for the sake of it. I was building something meaningful, something I believed in. This shift in mindset was revolutionary. The days when I felt exhausted or uninspired were fewer and farther between. When I reconnected with my purpose, motivation seemed to follow naturally. It wasn't about feeling motivated every day. It was about being driven by something bigger than myself. Resilience, bouncing back from setbacks. Another trait I noticed in successful people was resilience. Life will always throw curveballs, setbacks, failures, and moments of doubt are inevitable. But what separates successful people from those who give up is their ability to bounce back. I've seen it in countless stories of famous entrepreneurs, athletes, and creatives. They fail, they get knocked down, but they don't let it stop them. Instead of dwelling on their mistakes, they use those failures as learning opportunities. They know that failure is not the end. It's simply part of the process. I began adopting a resilient mindset. When I faced challenges, I didn't let them derail my progress. Instead of feeling defeated, I asked myself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to improve? The more I practiced resilience, the more I realized that success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it and using it to fuel your future growth. Resilience became another key to maintaining motivation because it kept me focused on the long-term journey rather than getting stuck in short-term setbacks. Mastering focus, prioritizing what matters. One of the most powerful habits successful people cultivate is focus. With so many distractions in today's world, emails, social media, meetings, endless to-do lists, it's easy to get pulled in multiple directions and lose sight of what truly matters. I realized that to stay motivated, I needed to master the art of focus. Successful people don't try to do everything at once. They understand the importance of focusing on the most impactful tasks, the ones that will bring the greatest return on their time and energy. I started breaking my goals into smaller, manageable chunks. Instead of looking at the overwhelming mountain of tasks in front of me, I focused on what I could achieve in a single day or week. I prioritized high-impact activities, such as creating quality content, reaching out to potential clients, and refining my product. I also learned to say no more often. In the past, I had said yes to every opportunity, every meeting, every request, but that only spread me thin. Successful people, I learned, are strategic with their time. They focus on what aligns with their long-term goals and eliminate distractions that don't add value to their journey. By mastering focus, I was able to block out the noise and stay motivated to tackle the tasks that mattered the most. It wasn't about doing more. It was about doing what mattered and doing it well. The importance of rest and recovery. The more I studied successful people, the more I noticed a crucial element in their routines that I had overlooked: rest. It seemed counterintuitive. How could successful people be so productive and still make time for rest? But after diving deeper, I realized that rest isn't just about relaxation. It's about recharging. Even the most driven, hardworking people need time to step back and recharge their mental and physical batteries. I used to push myself to the limit, thinking that working nonstop was the key to getting ahead. But what I failed to realize was that burnout would eventually catch up with me. Success is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I began scheduling regular breaks throughout the day, quick walks, short meditations, and time spent away from my laptop. I made sure to get enough sleep at night and to take weekends off to rest and recharge. I also started prioritizing activities that brought me joy and relaxation: reading, spending time with family and friends, or enjoying a hobby. These moments of rest allowed me to return to my work with fresh energy, clarity, and renewed motivation. Successful people understand that productivity and rest go hand in hand. They know that in order to perform at their best, they need to allow themselves the time to recover. And I learned that taking care of myself was just as important as the work itself. Visualizing success, the power of mental imagery. Another practice I noticed in many successful people was the use of visualization. It's one thing to set goals, but successful individuals don't just stop there. They vividly imagine themselves achieving those goals. Visualization is a technique that helps people mentally rehearse their desired outcome, creating a sense of certainty and excitement about the future. It taps into the power of the mind to align thoughts, emotions, and actions with success. I decided to try this for myself. Each morning, I took a few minutes to sit quietly and visualize what success looked like for me. I imagined myself crossing the finish line of a big project, seeing the impact I wanted to make, and feeling the sense of fulfillment that came from achieving my goals. The more I practiced visualization, the more motivated I became. My goals didn't feel distant or abstract. They felt tangible and within reach. By mentally experiencing success, I conditioned my mind to stay focused on the bigger picture, even when the day-to-day tasks felt mundane. Visualization is a powerful tool, but it's not just about imagining success. It's about connecting with the emotions and sense of fulfillment that come with it. It creates a mental blueprint for success and strengthens the internal drive to keep moving forward. Surrounding yourself with positive influence. Successful people know the power of their environment. The people you surround yourself with can have a profound impact on your motivation. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity or people who don't support your goals, it can be incredibly draining. I realized that in order to stay motivated, I needed to curate my environment carefully. This meant seeking out people who shared similar values and ambitions, individuals who inspired me to do better and be better. I started spending more time with friends who were entrepreneurs, creators, and achievers in their own fields. Their energy was contagious, and their drive pushed me to elevate my own efforts. We shared our challenges, celebrated our wins, and held each other accountable. In addition to surrounding myself with like-minded people, I also made a conscious effort to consume positive and motivational content. I listened to podcasts that focused on personal growth, read books that inspired me, and followed social media accounts that shared uplifting messages. By surrounding myself with positive influences, I created an environment where motivation could thrive. I learned that success isn't just about what you do, it's about who you surround yourself with. The importance of gratitude. Amid all the hustle and ambition, I noticed that successful people consistently practice gratitude. In the race to achieve bigger and better things, it's easy to forget how far you've come. But gratitude keeps you grounded and reminds you of the progress you've made. I started keeping a gratitude journal, writing down at least 3 things I was grateful for each day. Whether it was a small victory, a lesson learned, or the support of a friend, acknowledging the good things in my life helped shift my focus away from what I lacked. Gratitude has a unique power to fuel motivation. It reminds you of why you're on this journey and gives you the strength to keep going. When things got tough, I would look back on my journal and realize how much I had accomplished, even when it felt like I wasn't moving forward. Successful people understand that gratitude isn't just about being thankful for what you have. It's about fostering a mindset that keeps you open to more success and growth. Celebrating progress. Small wins lead to big success. The final lesson I learned from successful people was the importance of celebrating progress. Far too often, we focus on the next big goal, constantly chasing the next milestone, without taking the time to acknowledge how far we've come. I began celebrating small wins along the way, whether it was finishing a big project, hitting a sales target, or simply staying consistent with my habits. These small victories gave me the boost I needed to keep going, even when the bigger goals still felt distant. Success is built on the small wins, the ones that happen every day. Recognizing and celebrating these moments helps maintain motivation and creates a positive feedback loop that fuels future progress. Conclusion: consistency, mindset, and purpose. As I reflect on everything I've learned about motivation, it's clear that successful people don't rely on motivation alone. They cultivate a mindset of discipline, resilience, and purpose. They embrace the power of focus, accountability, and rest, and they surround themselves with positivity and support. Success isn't about feeling motivated all the time. It's about showing up, even when you don't feel like it, and trusting that the small, consistent actions will lead to meaningful results. The secret to staying motivated is not just about relying on bursts of enthusiasm. It's about building habits that keep you moving forward, no matter what challenges come your way.